This week I completely finished a blouse from start to finish, which I can't even believe I managed to do that. I also started a pattern test and I finally put an end to my purple gumdrop sweater. Putting an end sounds very drastic. I mean, I finally finished my purple gumdrop sweater. Hello, my name is Bianca and welcome to Weekly Bee. Here I talk to you about my slow handmade wardrobe, so if you're into sewing and a little bit of knitting, you have come to the right place. Last week I'd mentioned to you that I had cut out a new Look N6707 blouse, and I'm happy to say that I've actually fully completed the blouse, buttons, ruffles and all. Here she is. I'm actually pleased with how she came out, but I would change a few things for the next time. Let me tell you all the details that I did choose for this one. So I chose a leopard print cotton poplin that I had in my stash. I chose to go with the collar as well as add the ruffles to the collar, and for the sleeves I went for a cuffed sleeve. I also went down 2 sizes based just on my bust measurements. My bust measurement put me in a size 12, but I sized down to a size 8 because when I was researching how the pattern worked for other people, I saw that a lot of people said that it was too big. So I actually went off of just my bust measurement, sized down twice, and it fits perfectly fine. I must say though that the bust dart is not sitting in the correct place, which I completely forgot to check that before cutting out the fabric. So I know for next time I need to sort out where my bust dart sits. I had a little trouble doing the pleats though, not in actually constructing or making the pleat, but when I was inserting the sleeve into the bodice, on either side of the pleats I had excess fabric, actually about 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch. So I had to make an extra little smaller pleat in order to accommodate the sleeve into the bodice. It wasn't an actual problem, but I actually went back to the pattern pieces to see had I cut out the correct sizes, sleeve and bodice, and I did. So I'm not entirely sure what happened over there. Then when I was doing the buttonholes, my machine behaves pretty well, but I was the one who misbehaved this time, because that little lever that you drop on the side of the machine, which tells your buttonhole foot where to start and stop making the buttonhole, I had knocked that somehow 3 different times. So on the first 2 times I'd knocked it, that the lever lifted up, meaning that it didn't catch the buttonhole foot, so it made the buttonhole a lot longer. So I had to stop it, unpick all of that and redo those buttonholes. Then the 3rd time I made a mistake was as the buttonhole was coming to an end, I actually knocked the lever, telling the sewing machine, okay, this is it, finish the buttonhole here, and it made the buttonhole too short. So again, I had to unpick a whole buttonhole, but I managed to sort it out all in the end and it worked perfectly fine. And it would have done so the first time round if I had not knocked the lever so many times. I am pleased with my experience of using a big 4 pattern because it has been years since I've used a big 4 pattern. At the beginning of my sewing journey, I did 1 or 2 and I kind of gave up on them and just moved on to indie patterns. But going back to this now with all of the experience that I've gained throughout the years, it made this one a real breeze to go through. I must say though that one thing that is completely different to indie patterns is indie patterns along the way, they will tell you little tips and tricks and where to finish your seams, whereas one of these patterns from the big 4, it doesn't exactly tell you when to do it. So unless you read the fine print at the beginning of the pattern, you won't necessarily remember or know to do that when you are following the pattern step by step. And I did forget in one of the parts to overlock my seams, which, okay, I managed to work around it, but next time I obviously need to remember to do that. I would definitely make this pattern again, but as I said earlier, I would change the bust dart, move it to where it should be for my bust. And for the pleats on the sleeves, I enjoyed doing the pleats, but I'm not a fan of how they look on sleeves. I much prefer gathering. So if I do this blouse again, I will probably change that to gathered sleeves instead of pleats. Over the weekend was my monthly Sew and Bond sewing social day, and it was so lovely to welcome quite a few new faces and getting to know them throughout the day. While we were at the sewing social, everyone was busy with their projects, of course, and I took along a pattern test that I had to start. Now, this pattern test has a lot of pages to stick together, so instead of doing that, I ordered them to be printed off in A0 from CLC Prints, and it came 5 or 6 A0 pages. So there's a lot of pattern pieces and quite big-ish pattern pieces. So what I set out to do on the day was to trace out my size. Now at home I always use my window as like a light box, so the light shines from the outside in and it's easier for me to trace my size out. At the sewing social I thought I was going to be able to do that on the floor because everything is quite bright, but it actually made life a bit difficult, so I ended up not being able to do that at my sewing social. I ended up doing it at home. So all that was left for me to do at my sewing social was just socialize and eat all of the yummy treats that my partner made us. If you would like to join us for our next sewing day, which I think is going to be June the 28th, you can find all the details on my website www.beesilva.co.uk, and I will leave the link in the description box below for you to go and have a look. Now back to the pattern test that I mentioned. It is from the Petite Dressmaker and she is calling it the Ellesmere dress. It is a collar dress with various panels, and you have the option of sleeveless, cap sleeve, and 2 variations of puffed sleeves. Because there's so many variations in this pattern, I actually asked everyone at the Sewing Social if they could help me pick what version to go with. So we ended up choosing to go with a cap sleeve. Not after everyone confused me first, because some were saying, oh, go for the puff sleeve, that's going to look nice here, and then sleeveless and then cap sleeve. And it was just also confusing because I could see myself using each of these versions in different seasons of the year. But I ended up going with the cap sleeve because I don't own anything with a cap sleeve in my wardrobe, so I thought it would be nice to try that out. I cut out only half the bodice to make a toile, and I'm using this poly cotton fabric that I had in my stash. I just quickly basted all the pieces together, not doing any real pressing or finishing or anything of the seams. It's literally just to have a quick look to see if the bodice is going to fit me. I don't want to waste too much time on the toile, hence not pressing and doing all the seam finishes, because if I do, I won't have the time to finish the actual version because I've left it quite late to start the pattern test. I should have started about 5 or 6 days ago, and I have just over a week to finish the whole dress and give all the feedback. So I kind of need to get a move on. And it doesn't help that I haven't chosen the final fabric that I want to make this dress in. It is quite fabric hungry, so I'm not sure what I have in my stash that will be long enough for me to be able to do this full dress in. Just quickly having a look at my stash, I have lots of dark colored background fabrics, so like blues and greens, so that may be where I'm going to head to, is to my blue section. But I don't want to focus just on that. I want to see on the other side of my table what other fabrics I have there, because on that side I have blacks and reds, and on that side I have my pinks, yellows and blues. So I still need to raid my stash properly to find out what fabric it is that I want to use. Now you're probably sick of hearing me speak about my purple Gumdrop sweater, but I swear this is the final time that I'm going to be speaking to you about it in my videos. She is finally finished, and when I mean finally finished, she is now blocked and all. That was my task for this week, and I'm so glad I got it out the way, and I used the perfect sunshine to have it dried a lot quicker. I have found that when I block my knits and I keep them indoors, it takes sometimes 2, 3 and even 4 days depending on the thickness of the yarn to go completely dry. So I thought I would take advantage of the sun this week and have her outside, and she took about 5 to 6 hours to be completely dry, so that was a bonus. I am so happy with how the sweater came out because I had a vision in my head of having a tartan or plaid, however you say it, print for a sweater, and I had originally chosen a lighter color purple, which was kind of like a pastel-y purple, but I'm so glad I went for a deeper purple because it just makes the sweater more bright, more live for me. I used the Gumdrops Sweater by Rita made this as a base, and yes, I used all of the measurements, but it doesn't have this print specified in it. The print was my own invention that I went through with, and let me tell you, I will not ever, well, I don't want to say not ever because that sounds a bit too dramatic, but I will not be doing color work changes or so many color work changes in a project for the next 10 years, I feel, because this was just enough for now. Beautiful result, but enough. Over the weekend, I wore this with my bright pink Lander pants, and it just made me smile throughout the whole day because I was just a big ball of color. So it made me really happy, that combination, and I need to now try and find what other combinations I can use the sweater with in my wardrobe. Lastly, the Sew Blood Pressure 25 Sewing Challenge is only a few days away from starting. It is going to start on the beginning of June, so the 1st of June, and it's going to run until the end of June. All you need to do to be able to participate in this challenge is sew up something that has been on your sewing list for a while. A while for you could be 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, but whatever you have that's hanging on your sewing list, let's tick it off together during the month of June. Maybe it's something that involves a lot of work. Maybe it's something you've been waiting to buy fabric for. You've just been waiting for the right time to get to this project, and the right time is the month of June. Now, the reason why I'm hosting this challenge is because I lost my father to complications with high blood pressure. So I want to raise the awareness around the issues of having high blood pressure and not having it treated. So alongside tackling projects that you have been putting off for a while, I want you to head over to maybe your local pharmacy or to your doctor, or if you have a measuring tool to measure your high blood pressure at home, please do that throughout the month of June. It's not called a measuring tool, it's called a blood pressure monitor. One thing that I made optional this year was to make a donation. So while I'm carrying out this challenge, I'm also raising money through it for the Blood Pressure UK charity. This year I've made it optional to donate because I don't want that to be a barrier for you to be able to participate in the challenge. So if you can, please donate to my chosen charity via a link that I will provide at the time. Also throughout the month of June, whatever you are working on, please do feel free to use the hashtag SoBloodPressure25WIP. And when you post your final make, which you can post throughout the month, you don't have to wait until the end of the month, please use the hashtag SoBloodPressure25 and tag me BeeSilva.create so I can actually see what you have made and enter you into the chance of winning a prize. That is all I got up to this week in the world of sewing and knitting. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to like and also subscribe to my channel for more. That's it from me today. Bye for now.